COVID is surging or increasing in 5 states: New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Florida, and Michigan. Is the White House considering sending any extra vaccines to those states or doing anything else to slow the surge in those places?
Well, we're taking two approaches here. The first is we are continuing to increase our vaccine supply to states across the country. Over just the last 3 weeks, we have sent almost 90 million doses out to states across the country. We also know that one size does not fit all. And in these states where we've seen upticks, we are taking targeted approaches. We're working closely with the government. In each of these states, we're deciding how we can get vaccines to different communities that need it more, how we can increase supply that we're getting within states, that within the supply they have, to different parts of the community that where we're seeing upticks. So we're working hand in hand in locksteps with each of these states to help address it. But we're not seeing supply as the primary issue. We're seeing the need to continue to coordinate, effectively get to targeted communities, meet people where they are as the biggest challenge, which we're continuing to focus on in close coordination.
Jen, the CDC has been releasing really sort of hither and yon messaging on a lot of different subjects over the past year or so. On Monday, the CDC said that all the cleaning and disinfecting is not necessary, that this is spread by the air, but the science had told us all that a year earlier. Is the White House concerned at all that the CDC's messaging is not matching perfectly with the science?
No, the CDC messaging is based on the science, based on health and medical experts.
Well, they were a year late with that disinfecting isn't necessary.
They might disagree with your argument on that front. There are some of the nation's best science and medical experts working at the CDC. They are constantly evaluating the data and looking at that from not a political lens, but through a lens of what clear information they can give to the American people about what's safe. Sometimes that may not be on the timeline that people hope or expect, but they're basing it not on expectations, but what on the data and the science tells them.
Jen, on guns, the president is scheduled to unveil a series of executive orders tomorrow to help curb gun violence. First, can you give us a preview? And second, is there any sense that he is giving up now on comprehensive gun reform through Congress?
Absolutely not. He looks at this. He has been a lifelong advocate for common sense gun safety measures. He fought to put the Brady Bill, make the Brady Bill law, increase background checks. He fought to get an assault weapons ban in place. He led the effort to put nearly 24 executive actions in place during the Obama-Biden administration. So what he's going to be announcing tomorrow are steps he can take as President of the United States, using his levers, some in partnership with the Department of Justice, to put in place executive actions, provide additional guidance for states looking to put in place their own laws. But he's also simultaneously going to continue to work with leaders in Congress on moving forward the 2 background check bills that are moving their way, that have moved their way through the House, to push for an assault weapons ban, putting that in place, and to work through legislation, because that's the only way we'll have permanent change and permanent reforms.
Thanks, Jen. On infrastructure, today the president said that the country needs to take more bold action on infrastructure. But really, there's so much more than infrastructure in this new infrastructure bill. In fact, some have called this a sort of modern day New Deal. Would the president sign on to that sort of terminology for it?
I don't think the president's giving new terminology other than calling it the American Jobs Plan, because it's a job creating package that creates good union jobs, higher paying jobs. And he believes that the way we view infrastructure should be through the prism of how we can address the challenges we're facing today in America's infrastructure. We're not working on how to get the horse and buggy across the road anymore. That's important, but we need to build from there. A third of the country doesn't have access to reliable broadband. We have kids who are still drinking water that's going through lead pipes. There are veterans hospitals that need to be rebuilt, schools that need to be rebuilt. That is all infrastructure, and that's addressing the 21st century infrastructure needs.
On the border, Jen, the human smugglers are winning the messaging battle over the White House. That seems hard to disagree with. The problem, though, existed before this presidency. No one else has been able to solve it. How can this administration solve it?
Well, we fully recognize we are working against a number of challenging factors. The smugglers is one, as you referenced. Also, these countries where people are coming from have dealt with 2 hurricanes, challenging economic circumstances, corruption, and we need to address the root causes in these countries. That's one of the reasons the president has asked the vice president to lead that effort. We have a team of talented diplomats with a great deal of experience in the region who are going to work with entities in the region to help address root causes. We also need to put in place an immigration system that is working and functioning. And we inherited a broken system that was based entirely on putting in place, building a wall. We know that's not even going to keep people out. We need to invest in smart security. We need to invest in the region. And we need to agree on a pathway to citizenship for the immigrants who are living in this country now. So there's a lot of work we need to do to prevent, as you noted, this cycle from happening over and over again.
When, Jen, can we expect to hear from Vice President Harris on this very matter and what we can do for those countries back at home, what we can do for the kids who are over here and need better housing?
Well, her team just announced a DART team would be going to the region to help address the immediate humanitarian crisis that we're seeing in the region, which is to bring drinking water, to bring food and access to necessary emergency supplies. We don't have many DART teams around the world right now, so this is actually a significant step. She's also been in touch with leaders in the region, and I expect people will hear from her soon. But we have also a team of diplomats who are engaging closely and working with the vice president as well to stay engaged and determine what the best path forward looks like.
Jen, the most recent messaging from the president on people who are considering coming here is don't come here. Can we expect to hear anything stronger?
I can convey to you clearly, his message is don't come. The border is not open. The majority of adults will be turned away. We know that it can't just be his words alone. We also are working with our embassies on the ground, are working with a range of creative tools and ways to communicate directly with people living in these countries, whether it's social media, paid media, working through a means of engaging with local elected officials and leaders who can convey the trip is dangerous, it's a treacherous journey, and the majority of people will be turned away at the border.
Jen, I know you're short on time, but those little kids, you see those kids all alone in the place they know nothing about, in many cases can't even speak the language. What does that do to you, not as a press secretary, but as a human?
And as a mom, I mean, I have 2 little kids, and watching these pictures and watching this video is absolutely heartbreaking. I mean, these parents feel so desperate that they are putting their kids on buses and they are putting their kids having their kids take these journeys because they are so desperate because of the circumstances at home. And that should really sit with a lot of the people who are watching this develop. What we're trying to do right now, we're not saying this is easy, is keep these kids safe, treat them humanely, treat them as we would treat kids. That means moving them out of these Border Patrol facilities as quickly as possible. These are not places for kids. Putting them in shelters where they can have access to health services, access to educational services, access to legal services, so we can help find them either a family member or a home a sponsor home where they can be safely. Their cases are then still adjudicated. But as human beings, as moms, as people in this country, as dads too, of course, we have to look at these kids as how we would treat our own kids and how we can do better to get them into places where they're safe and treated with humanity.
How are we not better prepared for this?
You know, Shep, I think there's a couple of challenges that we came into. One is that there were thousands of kids who were separated from their parents at the border. We're working to address that through our Family Reunification Task Force. 2, there were not steps taken by the prior administration to seek shelters and look for shelter facilities that would be appropriate for housing these kids. That's why people are seeing so many of these kids in these Border Patrol facilities for too long of a period of time. We had COVID challenges. We couldn't have them at full capacity. And we were behind the 8 ball because of the lack of preparation of ensuring we had enough facilities. We've opened up facilities to house about 13,000 or more kids over just the last several weeks, but we had to play catch up in doing exactly that. So we are working from trying to repair a very broken system, a process that was inadequate, and address these short-term significant challenges. But what we really need to do is put in place laws, put in place systems and processes to prevent this from happening in the future.
Jen Psaki, Thanks so much.
Thank you. Great to talk with you.
You too.